Hello, my name is John Ratzlaff. This is for FTH 212 SDI. This is week 5, our final project that we have here. Number one, just going to let you know that off camera here, I'm going to be field stripping the firearm. I'm also going to be off camera manipulating the action components to best identify areas needing improvement for a smoother trigger feel and weight. Look, listen for grittiness, function, and then I'll come back and share that here with you in 1 sec. So honestly, right now, as far as like grittiness and what I'm like looking for, like it's kind of really that trigger safety part of it right now. Just feels a little gritty. I can't really tell too much, I think, until we get this thing broke down a little bit more. But just kind of want to share those thoughts. All right, I did assemble the firearm again. Just want to point out really quick, it's pointing a safe direction. There's no feed source, no magazine, and then this chamber is visual check, physical check on camera. There's nothing in here. All right, so my first trigger pull is going to be about 7 pounds. Second one is 6.8. Third one is 7. Fourth is 6.4. And fifth was also 6.4. In the grand scheme of it, I don't really think that's too bad. Like, kind of like we talked about, and like we learned, like that trigger weight and trigger feels a little bit different. To me, that doesn't feel like that heavy. It's definitely, to me, it feels good, but I think we can also get it better here. All right, so I have disassembled the firearm here. I'm going to apply some layout dye to all of those relevant areas. I have that complete. And then off camera here too, I'm going to just reassemble everything and then do a functions check on that. Really quick, I don't know if you can see too much of that layout dye, but I do have some of that on there. So just wanted to point that out. All right, so kind of interpreting, I disassembled everything. Did functions check. Actually, I just went ahead and did it about 20 times. But kind of more or less like what I'm seeing and everything else within it. Did it feel a little better? Yeah, but like not overly crazy. It's not something I'm like, oh wow, that made a huge impact. But you can kind of tell a little bit. So yeah, let's get back to that here in 1 sec. So really, the back of that trigger bar itself needed a little bit more. I do have that. I could stone and polish that a bit more too. I mean, I do see it's nice and polished, like how I had it before. But yeah, I think there's a few areas I can definitely tell I can do a little bit more. So I'm gonna work on that. But just continue just to go light. It's asking how do you determine when materials need to be removed or polished despite rub marks. You don't want to do anything obviously on the sear, but any other area, depending on where it's at. If you have like a high spot that's not fully polished, I think that definitely could be. All right, so it's going to be a little bit hard to tell, but I'm going to wind up polishing a few more of these parts here, here on the side, inside as well. I'm also going to get right here, and this is our before. All right, you should be able to see where this is nice and polished up at here. I'll turn it around the right way for you, so you can see right up on here. Got that nice. And then as well as here in our trigger bar, let's see here. It's kind of hard to show, but we do have this nice and polished on this area. And then here as well. All right, so that actually made some difference. I've got 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.1, 6.1. So, I mean, definitely a better difference from where it was at before. Not really crazy, but definitely a difference. All right, real quick here off camera, I'm going to be installing a reduced power spring and another aftermarket component that received with your kit. Also off camera, I'm going to measure that new trigger pull, and I will share the results here shortly. All right, so off camera, I did install the reduced power spring. I went to 4 pounds, measured the trigger pull. I'm honestly getting still about the same thing. So there really wasn't much change specifically in that. And then really that trigger feel itself, I don't know. I don't know if maybe I just can't really tell too much about it, but I don't think that really made a big difference, honestly, at all. Um, Not like it was with the revolver. So, um, all train factoring components. All right, so like going from regular sights to night sights, yeah, that's definitely something that's good. Um, are there any other modifications you would make to the trigger components to improve trigger feel weight? I don't know as of right now. Maybe just further down the line, a little more experience with it, be able to grasp or know, hey, this would be a good trigger. This wouldn't be a good trigger. I personally think that I'll just wind up putting a different trigger system in this itself. Um, I kind of honestly don't like the way that it really feels. And if I'm going to go with something, if I'm going to make something better, I'm just going to go ahead and put a different trigger system in it. That's just me. Um, and that's kind of my justification for it. Just I'm used to putting in a few different aftermarket triggers, polishing up, changing a few things. Yeah, it works. But if you really want to get a drastically different feel like we did on like that revolver, that's just going to be the way to go. And then let's see here. Definitely the firearm would pass inspection. I don't see why not. There shouldn't be any issue with that. It's not even dropping down to like a 8 ounce, rifle trigger or something like that. And then if any other modifications were made, might those modifications negatively impact the performance of the system? So I think if depending like weight wise and with like a 19 or 17 kind of setup, maybe like we learned um, in kind of the lectures and the videos, if you did take too much weight out of like that slide, that definitely would probably be a factor, and it might negatively affect it. That's the first thing I can think of. But no, overall it was good. Not super impressed with the trigger feel like after polishing or sanding, polishing, and even changing springs and stuff. Sights are awesome. That's cool. But I don't know. Not overly impressed, to be completely honest. But hey, that's all right. Well, thanks so much. Take care.